Hello, you're tuning into the English News Bulletin here on VTV International Live. I'm Thuy Dương here in Hanoi, and in the following are the headlines at this hour. International press conferences held on developments in the EC. Later on, overseas Vietnamese and foreigners can now purchase homes here in Vietnam. And in our weekly edition of Culture Watch, 1,000 voices sing to affirm nation sovereignty. We'll now begin the bulletin with a statement. Vietnam has sufficient legal and historical evidence affirming its sovereignty over the Hoàng Sa and Trường Sa, or Paracel and Spratly Islands. Now, this announcement was the main topic during the International Press Conference on developments in the EC held in Hanoi on Friday.
At the press conference, Deputy Head of the National Boundary Commission Chen Duy Hai confirmed that Vietnam has sufficient legal and historical foundations to affirm its sovereignty over the Hoàng Sa and Trường Sa archipelagos. This sovereignty is recognized by international law and faces no objections from other countries.
The Geneva Agreement of 1954 stated that all parties should respect Vietnam's independence and territorial integrity. It also stipulated that Vietnam gained control of the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos following the French withdrawal from Vietnam. Vietnam has also exercised its sovereignty over these two archipelagos. As a participant in the Geneva Conference in 1954, China must acknowledge and observe the documents of this conference.
Regarding a letter sent by former Prime Minister Phạm Văn Đồng to China in 1958, which has been used to contest the sovereignty claims over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos, Hai stated that Dong's letter was not historical proof of China's sovereignty over these archipelagos.
Former Prime Minister Phạm Văn Đồng diplomatic letter did not mention any matters related to territory or sovereignty over Paracel and Spratly archipelagos.
Concerning Chinese officials' opinions that Vietnam's oil and gas exploration activities are in disputed waters, Vietnam Oil and Gas Group CEO Đỗ Văn Hậu asserted that Vietnam oil and gas exploration and exploitation activities takes place within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and has been in operation since late 1960. He added that Chinese officials claim that these are disputed water is a preliminary attempt to legalize their claim over the waters surrounding the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos.
We still cooperate with many international companies like ExxonMobil of the USA, Gazprom of Russia, and etc. Petro-Vietnam and its partners' normal activities still take place in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone in accordance with UNCLOS. China's argument that Vietnam's 57 oil lots are in disputed area is wrong. The deployment of the oil rig Hải Dương 981 is illegal.
Answering the question of using legal measures to deal with the current situation, Nguyễn Thị Thanh Hà, head of international laws and treaties, said that Vietnam is a member of the United Nations and a signee of the Convention on the Law of the Sea, so Vietnam can cite international law to resolve this dispute. Vietnamese leaders will use peaceful means to protect Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos, so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has prepared all necessary materials to do so. At the press conference, representatives from Ministry of Foreign Affairs and related agencies also answered questions from domestic and foreign reporters about the current situation in the EC, as well as border trade activities between Vietnam and China.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng recently affirmed that Vietnam would not barter sovereignty for unrealizable friendship. Now, the Prime Minister made this statement at the 2014 World Economic Forum on East Asia, or WEF East Asia, on Thursday. Discussing recent developments in the EC, he added that Vietnam has exercised restraint and would not initiate the use of force unless it was compelled to. The Prime Minister's speech was hailed by members of the 13th National Assembly attending the ongoing 7th session here in the country.
National Assembly members showed support for Prime Minister Dũng statement, which stays true to Vietnam's firm stance regarding its national independence, self-reliance, and sovereignty.
The Prime Minister's speech at the World Economic Forum East Asia has truly shown Vietnam's policy as a peace-loving country. In our constitution and law on the sea, it is clearly stated that Vietnam always tackles international disputes with peaceful measures. However, our sovereignty is sacred and not to be violated by any other parties. We love peace and we've exercised restraint. And yet, even our restraint has its limits. Given the recent East Sea tensions, it is important that not only Vietnam and China, but also other countries in the ASEAN community find peaceful solutions and respect international laws.
Apart from saluting Prime Minister's speech at the 2014 WEF East Asia, National Assembly members also urged Vietnamese citizens to express their patriotism in a peaceful manner.
I think that not only National Assembly members, but all Vietnamese agree with Prime Minister Dũng statements. For thousands of years now, when faced with threat of invasion, the Vietnamese people have prioritized peaceful measures. However, if invaders cross the line, we won't hesitate to defend our sovereignty.
National Assembly members also stressed the need for additional legal and historical evidence to prove Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos. They added that this should be bolstered by asking other countries and international friends to join hands in supporting Vietnam as it protects its sovereignty.
Now, the situation in Vietnam's waters, where China has illegally installed oil rig Hải Dương 981, remains tense. On Friday, VTV correspondents reporting from a fishery control force ship recorded the continued aggression from Chinese ships. At around 8 p.m. on the same day, 2 Chinese ships fired their water cannon on Vietnam fish control ship 630. This aggressive action damaged the ship, completely disabling its electrical system. So far, 12 members of the Vietnam Fish Control Force have been injured because of the hostile actions by Chinese ships. Moving now on to other news, the annual conference on the future of Asia, organized by Nikkei Communications and Japan's Center for Economic Research, opened in Tokyo of Japan on Thursday. Chief among delegates' concerns at the conference was the rising tension in the EC and its knock-on effects onto peace as well as stability in Asia.
The theme of this year's conference is Rising Asia, Messages for the Next 20 Years. At the conference, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong stated his belief that the United States, China and Japan will continue to have a great influence on the development of the Asia-Pacific region. He also raised his concern over China's unlawful deployment of oil rig Hải Dương 981 in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam also mentioned the economic benefits of the EC.
It is situated on the world's leading trade route, which account for 1/4 of total freight, 1/3 of crude oil, and half of gas in the world. Nevertheless, we strongly protest against any infringement on our sovereignty. We are resolved to use necessary measures to protect our national sovereignty.
Many scholars have also expressed their concerns about the regional security in the face of China's recent actions and have urged the parties involved to settle the issue peacefully and amicably.
So war is not a solution. Like it or not, we have to find some peaceful means of solving conflicts between nations.
The potential of Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP and the formation of the ASEAN Economic Community were also discussed at this year's conference.
Updates on the Vũng Áng economic zone following the recent disruptive incidents reveal that so far over 5,000 workers have returned to work in their factories. The Formosa project has also returned to its normal production activities. Local authorities have aided the resumption of commercial operation by creating optimum conditions and supporting mechanisms for the economic zones.
Currently, there are 50 companies from different nations, including China, the Republic of Korea, Belgium, and Vietnam, operating as a Formosa project in the Vũng Áng economic zone. After several days of Võ Hoài Nam, a worker at the project, is now returning to work along with many of his colleagues.
We feel reassured getting back to work. Now we understand the problems and will encourage each other not to follow bad examples. The company has done its best to assist me in getting back to work. I'll also explain to my colleagues that things are okay now so they can come back.
According to the Board of Management as a Formosa project, the number of laborers coming back to work continue to rise ever since the government committed to tightening security and safety as a project and throughout the region. In another stabilizing factor for the area, tax and insurance policies has been adjusted to maintain regional stability and security.
Local authorities are serious about maintaining security for production, investment, and upholding the workers' living standards, especially the Chinese workers. We have called for locals and national budgets to compensate for the losses of companies affected by the recent incident.
Together with the authorities' efforts, enterprises are also drafting solutions to handle the problems and resume normal activities.
We have developed several solutions focusing on encouragement. We have to let them know what is allowed by law and what is not, so that the workers will have faith in a full recovery. Public communication has been enhanced to raise awareness of the workers.
The Formosa project is rushing to complete several of its important construction projects. With the collaborations of the government and the enterprise community, production activities are expected to make a full recovery in the near future.
Authorities in Bình Dương, Southern Province, held a meeting on Friday with their subordinates at relevant organizations, as well as representatives from insurance companies in the area, to listen to damage reports of the recent incidents which affected enterprises. According to the organization's reports, so far, most of the affected enterprises have resumed operations. The statistics on the damage to the enterprises up to now have been also completed. The insurance companies also reported that they have surveyed the damage to 73 enterprises, which signed contracts with them. Regarding their duties, the Departments of Customs and Tax have also promptly assisted the enterprises in terms of procedures so that they can soon resume production. At the meeting, Bình Dương authorities once again affirmed their strong support of the affected enterprises and said that they would resolve the situation as soon as possible. On Friday, the Formosa Group launched its proposal to build the Thanh An FSH General Hospital. Now, this comes just a few days after its Sơn Dương Steel Complex in the central province of Hà Tĩnh resumed normal operations following recent protests. With a total investment capital of over $7 million, the hospital will be built on an area of 11,000 square meters and will have an initial capacity of 100 beds. In the second phase of the project's construction, an additional 200 beds will be added. The hospital will be equipped with modern equipment and technology, as well as domestic and international doctors to meet the needs of healthcare of those residing in and around the Vũng Áng Economic Zone. The first phase of the hospital is expected, it is reported, to be operational by the end of 2015. Now, Vietjet Air has opened a new route between Ho Chi Minh City and Singapore with a frequency of 7 flights per week and a potential to cater up to over 2,500 passengers. This new route will help meet the needs of those traveling between Vietnam and Singapore. Now, in particular, this route will accommodate the business sector, which has recently flourished between the two countries. Currently, Vietjet Air covers 24 domestic and international routes, and as part of its development strategy, Vietjet Air will continue expanding its air routes throughout the entire Asia-Pacific region. Coming up here in our live edition of VTV News, a requiem is held for martyrs and militia on the Paracel Islands. Later on in our edition of Culture Watch, 1,000 voices sing together in affirmation of the nation's sovereignty.
Vietnam's varied charms are boundless. They will awaken your senses to astonishing wonder. From sight to sound, from smell to taste, you will be touched in ways you've never thought possible. Vietnam is so charming, one visit is never enough.
You're tuning into VTV News Live. Now, overseas Vietnamese and foreigners can now actually purchase houses in Vietnam. This is according to the currently discussed amended law on construction by the National Assembly. We have more details now in the following report.
The amended law on constructions will allow overseas Vietnamese and foreigners to own houses in Vietnam for over 50 years with several limitations.
In any residential area or apartment complex, there will be a 30% limit on the number of houses owned by overseas Vietnamese and foreigners to keep a balanced and harmonious living community.
For overseas Vietnamese currently living abroad, there will be no limitations on the number of houses owned by each individual. However, at present, many overseas Vietnamese seem to be concerned over the policy procedures in Vietnam.
I hope there will be stricter amendments to ensure the rights of overseas Vietnamese in case of ownership conflicts, just as the case in countries where we are currently living. Here, house owners are fairly protected.
Currently, there are more than 300,000 foreigners living in Vietnam and about 5 million overseas Vietnamese. If the amended law is approved, the domestic real estate market will be bustling with new flows of foreign investment, which is expected to raise the total trade value of the market up to 10 to 15%. However, some experts are concerned that competitions with foreign investors will limit the chances of Vietnamese people becoming house owners.
We are concerned about the market competition as foreign investors will be more financially competent than domestic investors. However, we will work to develop strategies to strengthen our competitiveness.
The National Assembly is continuing discussions on details of the amended law before its final approval.
A national seminar on agricultural and environmental development in relation to climate change in the Mekong River Delta region opened on Friday. The seminar focused on two main topics, including agricultural production and appropriate strategies to deal with climate change. Now, several measures have been issued in order to cope with reduced rainfall levels and soaring temperatures, including building a water reservoir to maintain current levels of agricultural production. In general, the the measures proposed during the seminar can be applied in most provinces and cities throughout the Mekong River Delta. A conference to mark the 10-year anniversary of the protected marine area and the 5th anniversary of Cù Cham or Cham Island World Biosphere Reserve was held also on Friday. At this conference, the discussion focused on the achievements in management and conservation of Cù Cham Biosphere Reserve over the last 5 years. Accordingly, the management board has successfully satisfied all 7 criteria of a biosphere reserve, including, but not exclusive to, the preservation of tangible, intangible resources and biological diversity, especially the development of eco-friendly businesses. The conference also stressed the importance of raising awareness for people living in the area and the need for technology in the development of ecotourism in collaboration with the community. A requiem for martyrs and militia that have protected Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel archipelago took place on Friday in Lý Sơn Island in the central province of Quảng Ngãi. Now, this occasion allowed Vietnamese people to show their gratitude to soldiers on the Paracel Islands. This event also communicated a message of Vietnam's historical sovereignty over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos. Other commemorative activities will be held on Lý Sơn Island between now and the 25th of May. It's now time for our weekly edition of Culture Watch. Now, more than 1,000 people across Vietnam, including hundreds of artists, have joined hands in order to make a music video of the national anthem dedicated to the country's seas and islands. The process of making this music video is now in its final stages, and it is set to be released next Monday. In Culture Watch this week, we'll have a sneak peek and also behind-the-scenes view of the making of this MV.
So here I am at Minh Quân Studio here in Hanoi with many artists from across the country. And as you can see, we're all wearing the same t-shirt in red and yellow. It's the Vietnamese flag. And today is the second day of recording and filming for the song that had been chosen to show their love for the nation, Vietnam.
The music video of Quốc ca, the Vietnamese national anthem, was initiated by local pop singer Minh Quân. Hundreds of artists from across the country, including singers, actors, athletes, and beauty queens, were eager to join the project for free. The number of participants expanded to more than 1,000 instead of the initial 200, wearing red t-shirts with a yellow star to express their patriotism. The music video was recorded at both ends of the country, in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City.
I think our most powerful weapon is our singing voices. We've gathered to add our voices to this song, the national anthem, the most powerful song in the whole nation. I have received strong support from all of my workmates and friends. Youth, strength, and patriotism are burning inside all of us. I'm happy to be the one to bring them all together to celebrate our patriotism.
With his previous experiences of recording 300 different artists for a single track, Minh Quân has no trouble directing this project. Hundreds of singers were divided into sections. Local musicians, music producers, and technicians also offer help. A collection of traditional outsides in the color of national flag was designed exclusively for this music video, which also featured beautiful landscapes all over the country.
Tôi nghĩ là trong thời điểm này và trong những ngày này thì bất cứ người Việt Nam nào, dù ở vị trí nào, công việc nào.
At the moment, I think Vietnamese people from all walks of life want to express their love for the country. I think this is such a meaningful thing to do at the moment. That's the reason why I'm here today. I've chosen this way to show my love for my country.
Tình cảm của mình và tình yêu của mình đối với đất nước.
Ninh nghĩ rằng trong cái thời điểm này khi mà
I think this is a moment for uniting Vietnamese people across the country. I think everyone will welcome our message through this song. The message is that we are Vietnamese, we love our country and all stand together.
Con người Việt Nam chúng ta yêu nước và hãy sẵn sàng đoàn kết đứng bên nhau.
Named Tiến Quân Ca or the Matching Song, the national anthem was written by late musician Văn Cao in 1944. With the new arrangement of the national anthem, local artists have shown their love for the country with their best behavior. Hải Dương, Vietnam Television.
In the next part of Culture Watch now, we'll take a look at the upcoming cultural events.
The 2014 Vietnamese Cuisine Festival will take place in the coastal town of Nha Trang from July 1st to the 6th. A wide range of activities will take place during the week-long festival, including a cooking contest, specialties of Vietnam's 3 main regions, and a market with typical Vietnamese food from the past and present. Singer Tùng Dương, who is dubbed the Devo of Vietnam, will present his love for the country and its island and sea during a live show next month. Titled Tùng Dương Sing Love Songs, the show will be held in his home city of Hanoi on June 8th. In July, Dương will travel for the first time to Trường Sa to perform for soldiers and residents here. A national ca trù or ceremonial singing festival will be organized in Hanoi in August with the aim of preserving the UNESCO-recognized intangible cultural heritage. Ca trù, also known as Hát Ả Đào, was recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding in 2009.
Wrapping up our news bulletin now is your updated weather forecasts. And that wraps up this edition of VTV News. We'll be back again at 6 p.m. local time for another bulletin. In the meantime, do log on to vtv4.vn for more updated news. Thank you for tuning in, and this is VTV News.